Good evening and welcome to Outlandish Talmud Stories and Outstanding Life Lessons Part 15. Tonight's class is titled Body and Soul Face the Judge. We want to thank our kind anonymous sponsor who's dedicated tonight's class in honor of the refuah, shleima, the speedy and complete healing of all those who currently need God's extra blessings. If you want to dedicate a class, you can click on the link, Facebook and YouTube, and you'll have it there. You can download tonight's source sheets. You have the links in Facebook and YouTube as well. I'm excited for this class. It's the last one of the year. So Rosh Hashanah is coming up at the end of this week. So I want to make sure that this class is really going to give us something encouraging and challenging to be able to go into the new year with. We're studying an Outlandish story from the Talmud, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 91a to b. And as an introduction to the story, there are two things that are on my mind. I think two very big challenges that many people face nowadays. So the first challenge is what I call the blame game. You know, when anything happens, anything goes wrong, anything doesn't go the way you planned, the way you wanted it to, you made a mistake, you failed, what's the first instinctual reaction too many people have? The blame game. It's not my fault. It was someone else's fault, another person, or something's fault, circumstances. Whether it was my spouse, or it was my children, or it was my parents, or my coworker, my boss, my employee, somebody else, right? Or circumstances. So it's because of this happened, and because of this was going on, and this day of the week, and my mood, and I wasn't well, and this person ruffled my feathers, and I didn't get enough sleep. There's always a reason and an excuse to point to other than ourselves. Today, many people, and especially our children growing up, need to learn the idea of accountability, of honesty, of ownership. This is your life. And the decisions are your decisions. Yes, we do face pressures, and we do face all kinds of stresses and external influences. But you are in control of yourself, and you need to be able to make those decisions and own up to whichever one you make, whether it's a good one or not such a good one. And that's a very key ingredient coming into the holidays, reflecting on teshuvah, on repentance, on renewal, on change, on atonement, on forgiveness. So that's one thing that I want to concentrate on. The second thing I want to concentrate on is in our modern, comfortable world in the last few decades or century or so, we've become conditioned that we want to pursue the easy life, the comfortable life. And I say easy and comfortable life often at the expense of the meaningful life, the life worth living. With so many comforts of technology and prosperity nowadays, yes, we have challenges, but in general, I'm saying, we want things to be easy. We want things to come and feel good and make us feel good. And suddenly when something comes and shocks us a little bit and turns things around and catches us off guard, and we face an obstacle and we face a challenge, we'll lift up our hands and we say, God, what did I do wrong that you brought this to me? And maybe the answer is, you didn't do anything wrong. You did something right. You're being given an opportunity. Do you want the easy life, or do you want the life that's going to bring out the best in you? That's another thing that I want to focus on and share about today. So today we have an amazing story prepared. And the background of this story is that we know many of the sages of the Talmud had wonderful diplomatic relationships with emperors, kings of the time. Today, thank God, we celebrated an amazing peace treaty between Israel and the Prime Minister of Israel together with the United Arab Emirates. So we're seeing great development in our leaders of the world who were formerly not friends, possibly foes, and now we're seeing peace evolve. And hopefully it'll happen more to many other countries. It's always been important for Jewish survival to have strong ties, connections, and friendships with other nations. Even if we have to be in the exile, even if we have to be subject to the rulership, the sovereignty of others, let them understand the importance of the Jewish people, the importance of the Jewish state, and help us thrive, and they can benefit from that as well, and we can all be supporting and protecting each other. So, one such relationship was the great Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. We've spoken about him. He's the author of the Mishnah, 2nd century, the leader of the Jewish people. This is post the destruction of the Second Temple, and he had a very close relationship with Antoninus, the Roman emperor of the time. The two of them were known to be very wealthy, very successful, very powerful, very wise, and great people. And some of their relationship was hidden, so especially for Antoninus, he didn't want his Roman people to know about this relationship that he had, but he very much respected Rebbe. We call him Rebbe Yehuda the Prince, and there's a lot of their conversations and relationships that are recorded in the Talmud. So today we're going to discuss one of their conversations. I hope you have the link downloaded. Let's study this inside. Antoninus, the Roman emperor, said to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, "The body and the soul are able to exempt themselves from judgment for their sins." He's talking about when a person passes away, and they're going to face the heavenly tribunal, and God's going to say, well, what kind of life did you live, and find all these mistakes that you made. Well, body and soul are each going to be able to come to the courtroom and to exempt themselves and have no accountability for anything they did wrong. How and why is that? How so? So he explains. The body says, "The soul sinned. As from the day of my death when it departed from me, I'm cast like a silent stone in the grave and do not sin. Look at me," says the body. "I'm capable of sinning. I'm just dead flesh. I can't even move. I'm a dead body. I didn't do anything wrong. The soul that you put into me, the soul that gave me life, it's the soul that led me to sin. Blame him." And the soul says, "The body sinned. As for the day that I departed from it, I'm flying in the air like a bird, incapable of sin." The soul says, "Look at me, I've gone to heaven, I'm in the world of truth. You see any sin in me? I'm living, basking in the glory of God. It's only because you sent me into a body and the body gave all kinds of distractions and temptations. It's because of the crass earthliness, physical desires and indulgence of the body. That's why I was led to sin." Each one is casting off their responsibilities onto the other. And so you could walk away from the heavenly tribunal scot-free. Nobody's to blame. That's Antoninus's argument and claim he's presenting to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi said to him a very powerful answer, but first he gives a parable, a metaphor. "I'll tell you a parable," he says. "To what is this matter comparable? It's comparable to a king of flesh and blood who had a fine orchard. And in it there were fine first fruits of a fig tree. And he stationed 2 guards in the orchard, one lame, who was unable to walk, and one blind who couldn't see." 2 equally pathetic guards to watch these special fruits. Now, neither was capable of reaching the fruits on the trees in the orchard without the assistance of the other. The blind person couldn't even see the fruits. Doesn't know they're there, how to get them. The lame person can see them, but he can't move. He can't even reach out to get them. So the lame person said to the blind person, "I see fine first fruits on a fig tree in the orchard. Come and place me on your shoulders. I'll guide you to the tree and we'll bring the figs to eat them." Right? Let's do this together. I'll go on your shoulders. You'll do the walking. You're blind. I'll do the guiding and we'll be able to get them. The lame person rode up on the shoulders of the blind person, and they brought the figs and ate them. Sometime later, the owner of the orchard came to the orchard, the king, and he said to the guards, "The fine first fruits of a fig tree that were in the orchard, where are they?" And the lame person said, "Do I have any legs with which I'd be able to walk and take the figs? Look at me, I'm lame sitting on the floor, I can't even move." The blind person said, "Do I have any eyes with which I'd be able to see the way to the figs? I don't even know where they are. How could I get them? It wasn't us. You can't blame us. We're innocent." What did the owner of the orchard do? He placed the lame person upon the shoulders of the blind person, just as they did when they stole the figs, and he judged them as one. He said, Mr. Lame person, you're innocent. It's true. You can't even move. Mr. Blind person, you're innocent. You can't even see. But I'm going to put the lame on top of the blind. And look at the two of you together. You are both guilty. You stole my fruits and you ate them, and you're going to have to pay for it. So too responds Rabbi Yehuda to Antoninus, the Holy One, blessed be He, brings the soul on the day of judgment and casts it back on the body, as they were when they sinned, and he judges them as one. Says God, it's true, Mr. Soul, you're not capable of sin. Understood, I agree. It's true, Mr. Body, you're also not capable of sin. But he puts soul and body back together, and he sees this living human who is now capable of sinning, and he says the two of you together have sinned, and you're going to have to pay for it. That's the response of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi to Antoninus. Now, sorry. This is an amazing story. There is so much we can learn from here. So the simple meaning of this teaching of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi seems fairly simple. Look at body and look at soul. Body is able to move, but without any direction. There's no moral conscience that can move the body in any particular direction. So what's a body on its own? Right? A body can't do much. And a soul on its own has, the vision, the moral clarity, but a soul can't do anything. Right? A body has hands, has feet, has organs, has nose, has ears, has a mouth. A body can do something. It can do a mitzvah, but it has no life in it. So what's a body on its own? And a soul wants to do a lot of great things, but it has no feet, it has no hands, it has no nose, mouth, ears. So it can't do anything. So the simple answer. We understand the limitations of body, limitations of soul, put them together, and you have a unit that is now can achieve good or can have collective guilt for what they did. The question is, what's the big deal? What's so hard to understand that we need here a metaphor, a parable? Rabbi Yehuda comes up with this whole parable about a king and an orchard and the two guardsmen, the lame and the blind. These rabbis didn't waste their words. And you only provide a parable if it's really necessary to explain the concept. If the concept is easy and understood without the parable, there's no point in wasting words. They weren't just storytellers for no reason, as we have learned in all these past weeks. So what does the parable of the lame and the blind guard teach us about the nature, about the essence of this teaching of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi? And it teaches us something very, very powerful. The metaphor is exactly accurate. The condition of the body is of one which is blind, just like the blind guard. The condition of the soul is one of lame, like the lame guard. Why is a body blind and why is a soul lame? Listen very carefully, it'll help you appreciate and to understand this. A body is blind. A body is a physical, earthly being living in this world. All a body can connect with, the true reality in the world of a body, is that which is physical, that which is visible, that which is palpable, that which it can sense and feel with its bodily senses. A body is blind to anything deeper than the surface. A body is blind to the fact that there's a spiritual energy in the universe, that there's a God who created everything, that there's an ultimate plan of intelligent design, that there's right and wrong. A body doesn't know about that. A body looks for what feels good, what makes sense in its own mind. It's looking for its own gratification. It's looking for luxury. It's looking for indulgence. It's looking for a kind of hedonistic, Epicurean kind of life. I want to live the life. I want to experience as much pleasure, as much luxury and fun times and good times that I can have in my lifetime. So a body is blind to deeper truths in the world. The soul is not blind at all. The soul sees very clearly. The soul has absolute moral clarity. The soul knows and sees about the creator of the universe and the purpose of all of creation. And the soul understands there's right and there's wrong. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because you can't understand it doesn't mean it's not good or bad for you. And just because it feels good doesn't mean it's good for you. Just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean it's bad for you. The soul sees very clearly what is right, what is wrong, what it should be doing, what it should not be doing. So the body is blind and the soul has clear visibility. At the same time, the soul is lame and the body is not. What does that mean? Actually, it's not just the soul happens to not be blind, but it happens to be lame. To the contrary. Because, listen very carefully, because the soul is not blind, therefore it's lame. Because the soul is not blind, because the soul is able to see truth and understand the real story behind everything, therefore it becomes lame. It becomes stuck. Meaning, when you face real truth, there's no room for mistakes. If there's no room for mistakes, there's no room for decisions. If there's no room for decisions, then there's no room for struggle. If there's no room for struggle, then there's no room for growth. A soul is incapable of growing. A soul is stuck in its own orbit. A soul is a perfect angelic thing, piece of God. It knows the right thing all the time. It always does the right thing all the time. It's never challenged, it's never tempted, it's never distracted. But because of that visibility of the soul, it also cannot grow. If you cannot fall down, you cannot grow up. If you cannot get something wrong, then you also can't get something right. Soul is just in this automated zone, very natural and instinctual. The way it's created is the way it is, it's the way it's always going to be. It's never going to change and grow radically into something new that it wasn't before. It just always stays the same. The body is very different. Because the body is blind, therefore it's not lame. Therefore it's very mobile. The body roams in blindness in this world. It does not see right from wrong. It does not see true from falsehood. And the body is always faced with dilemmas and decision making and choices. And because it's faced with the power of those choices, it can always make mistakes. And at the same time, and because it can always make mistakes, it can always choose to do the right thing. And because it can fail, therefore it can succeed. And because it can fall down very low, therefore it can grow up very high. A body can move and grow beyond what it is naturally. It's a very powerful idea. Sorry, 1 second. It's very important to understand these traits of soul and body because they're pretty counterintuitive. I'll tell you a story. Some of you may have heard, there was a very famous, world-renowned Jewish chess player. His name was Sammy Reshevsky. He passed away in the 1990s. He was world-renowned. He was a world champion. They say about him at the age of 6 or as a young child, he was able to play 30 different games of chess at one time. He would go from one table to the next, having in mind the moves of each other, and he would win them all. And after each game, he'd be able to go to each table and review the playlist and every single move of him and his opponent in that game. Brilliant. Here are some of his accolades. He was a contender for the world chess champion in the mid-30s to the mid-1930s, 1960s. He came equal third in the world chess champion in 1948, equal second in 1953 candidates tournament. He was an 8-time winner of the US Chess Championship. He was good. I think he happened to be a descendant of the Arizal, the famed Kabbalist Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. Now, a little bit of background about him. He was raised in a fairly Jewish, traditional, observant home. And he lived a very engaged, connected Jewish lifestyle, which made a big Kiddush Hashem because everyone knew about his Jewishness. He didn't hide it. and he never played tournaments on Shabbat or festivals. And when he reached the 60s, 70s, and he felt like he's no longer in his prime and he's not on top of his game, he's not going to win tournaments anymore, he asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was considering retiring, if the Rebbe agrees he should retire. And the Rebbe said, absolutely not. The Rebbe did not believe in retirement. On the Rebbe's 70th birthday, he spoke about this very famously, and he said, people are asking me if I'm going to retire. And my answer is, I'm not only not going to retire, I'm making a new pledge for this year that I want to be able to spearhead and build 71 new institutions around the world, which they did with the help of his shluchim and other agents around the world. So the Rebbe said, don't retire, keep playing. Also because you're making a big Kiddush Hashem. People see you when they see how a proud, respectful Jew, spiritual person is also playing in the chess field and being able to be honest and upright and make a big Kiddush Hashem. So continue playing. The Rebbe had a very close connection with him. In fact, he once sent him in the 1940s, I believe, it was to go to California to visit the other great Jewish chess player, his colleague Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer went through stages of great depression. He was very down. And the Rebbe asked Sammy Reshevsky to go visit Bobby Fischer and try to bring him back to life. Anyhow, in the 1940s, Sammy Reshevsky lived in Brooklyn. And he used to pray on Shabbat in 770, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's synagogue. The Rebbe wasn't Rebbe yet. His father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, was the Rebbe, the Friedricher Rebbe. But often the Rebbe, the son-in-law, Rebbe Nachum Mendel Schneerson, used to lead Farbrengens and speak on Shabbat after the services. So one Shabbat in 1948, there was a Farbrengen after the prayers, and Sammy Reshevsky was there, and in his honor, the Rebbe delivered a whole speech using chess as a metaphor to learn out a powerful lesson. Listen to the lesson that the Rebbe shared. He said, in a chess game, you have many pieces. First, you have the king. The king is the most important piece in the chess game. All the other pieces dance around the king. It's their job to protect the king. They'll do anything. They'll even sacrifice themselves just to protect the king. The king represents God. And all the other pieces represent all the other creations of the universe. It's our job to dance around God, to live our life, to serve, and to uphold the dignity of the king of God. Next, you have the queen. The queen's different than the king. The queen doesn't just remain in its place trying to be protected, aloof, remote from the rest of the pieces, but the queen is able to move anywhere and everywhere. The queen has full mobility on the chessboard. Its job is to go around and also try to protect the king, and also to go around and finish off all the other pieces and try to win the game. The queen, the Rebbe explained, represents the feminine side of God's persona. We call it the Shekhinah. It's the revelation of God's energy, of God's creative light that goes out of its hub, of the Godhead, to go and do something, like go ahead and create the world. So it's this immanent, not transcendent, but the immanent light of Hashem that goes out to create the universe and to sustain it with life. And so it's a bit of a risky journey. Like the queen's job is a little risky, because God said, when God was alone up in heaven, everything was going right, nothing could go wrong. But once he decides to send out the Shekhinah to go and create the world and create human beings and give them a free-thinking mind, which is always a very dangerous thing to give a human being, they may do right, but they may do wrong. But this is the experiment over here. Hopefully they'll do right, and if they do right, they bring this whole project to its fulfillment. So the queen is out there sustaining, maintaining, connecting with, animating all of creation. That's the Shekhinah. Then you have the other important pieces lower in the hierarchy. The bishop, the horse, the castle. They're pieces that can also achieve a lot. They have less mobility than the queen, but they have some mobility. They can jump, diagonally or a few spaces or vertically and horizontally. They can move quite a lot. Those represent the souls of the angels. The angels are very capable. They can fly around in heaven and cover lots of ground and achieve lots of things and bring a lot of blessing. Angels are very capable, angelic beings. Finally, you have the pawn. The pawns. The pawns are the simplest pieces on the board. They are very stuck in their place. They can't move very much. They can move one square here or there. The pawns get knocked off very, very easily. The pawns represent us human beings in the world. We are much more limited than the angels, or God, of course. We can achieve very little. We're much more restricted beings with our limitations and restrictions to what we can actually achieve and accomplish in this world. And we face all kinds of difficulties, hardships, and challenges all the time. It's easy to get knocked off. It's easy to get totally swept away by the other tides and waves that come and challenge our lives. We are like the pawn. Now, follow this. Every chess game has two sides, the black and the white. Because in the story of life, there are two sides. That's the way God created it. There needs to be the opposing side, the opposing forces from the sides of goodness and holiness. And it's that opposing forces, the forces of evil, the forces of negativity, which actually give meaning to this game. Imagine playing chess by yourself with just one side. You would never lose, right? I hope not. But if you have an opponent, so the white is the side of good and the black is the side of evil, in this metaphor. And it's that opposition which is giving a sense of meaning and purpose to this battle, the battlefield that God intentionally created. Now, here's something interesting about the difference between the pawn and the other higher pieces like the bishop, the horse, and the castle. It is true that the bishop, the horse, and the castle have a lot more mobility and they can achieve much more than just a pawn can. But at the same time, that's all they can be. A horse can only be a horse, a castle can only be a castle, and a bishop can only be a bishop. They can never become something greater or higher. They can never outgrow that. The pawn is very different. If it knows how to hang in there, if it knows how to circumvent and overcome all the possible challenges coming its way, and it keeps trudging forward, patiently, with great determination and skill, eventually it can reach the other side. And when it reaches the other side, what happens to the pawn? The pawn gets an unbelievable growth. Not into a horse, not into a castle, not into a bishop. The pawn grows into a queen. Look at that. The pawn reaches the top, if it can make it till the end. The other pieces don't make it any higher than that. So the Rebbe said, that's the story of life. The angels are incredible beings. They have so much talent. They're gifted by God. They can achieve so much. But at the end of the day, an angel will always remain an angel, stuck in its orbit, stuck in the design of how it was created. This is how you were created. This is who you are. You're never going to be something different. The human being is the pawn in this world. Such a difficult life. A life with much more limitation of what you can truly be. But if the human being is persistent and knows how to overcome those challenges, knows how to withstand the difficulties coming its way, and keep its wits about it, make the right choices, and hang in there hard, at every possible choice, the right choice, the mitzvah, when you come out with victory and triumph, you become like a queen. You connect with God in a way and on a level that no angel can ever connect with, which is an unbelievable thing. We think about souls in heaven, like angels, and we say, wow. Some other religions love to be in heaven. They talk about heaven all the time. They look, how do we get to heaven? Heaven is great. Heaven, everyone is basking in God's delight. It's an easy life. It's a good life. It's a spiritual, luxurious life. But that's all it is. It's no more than that. It's very stagnant. It is what it is. Life down here is bumpy and difficult and choppy and painful and hurtful and shameful and all the other difficulties you may go through. But when you hang in there and you do something right, you bring about a level of growth, a level of transcendence in your life that you connect with the true God, the true Creator on levels that were you not to have come down to this world, you would never be able to achieve. Why does a soul come down to this world and have to live its 120 years over here? What a painful journey, what an unnecessary journey. Just stay in heaven. A soul that just stays in heaven is exactly just that. A soul that comes down to this world to live the 120 years of rocky humanity ends up in a much more powerful place, in a much higher place, in a more noble, beautiful place than it could ever achieve without having come down here. That's the secret of life. That's the secret of the descent coming down to this world in order to ascend to a higher place. That's the difference between you have the lame and the blind, or when they come together. If we look historically, many schools of thought got this wrong. And that's why the Talmud and the Jewish thought positions us right in the center, in the right place. So there were many who were spiritual seekers, religions, others who said, the body is a distraction. The body gets in our way. We want to uphold the values of truth and morality and honesty and spirituality. So in order to achieve that, we have to remove the body out of our way. So whether they chose a path of celibacy, not to indulge in the sensual gratification of the body, whether they chose to live a life of isolation up on a mountaintop, to eat very little, to enjoy very little physical pleasure or indulgence, and this way the body can't distract us, can't weigh us down, and we're able to allow greater expression of the soul. That kind of life may be beautiful. It may be spiritually blissful. However, it's lame. It's lame because that's all you are. You'll never discover your true potential. You'll never be who you can really be. You'll just be stuck in that zone. On the other extreme, there are those that came down to this world and they said, well, what are we here for 120 years? It's a short time. We better just live it up and enjoy it. And so they dedicate their lives to the pursuit of pleasure. How much can I live with comfort? More money, more vacations, more clothes, more cars, more homes, more luxury. How can I just make my life enjoyable to the max for the years that I have here in this world? Well, you may have, if God has blessed you, you may end up having a very enjoyable time in this world. But it was blind, because one day you'll come to a reckoning after 120 years and you'll look back and you say, really? That's all I did? That was the extent of my pursuits and interests through a whole lifetime? I'm left with nothing. Right? When you go to heaven, you go into your grave, says the Talmud, what do you take with you? You don't take your wealth, you don't take your possessions, you don't take your fame, your popularity, you take none of those with you. The one thing you take are your masim tovim, your good deeds, your mitzvot, your real spiritual legacy, what you accomplished on your own, what you accomplished and helped others, those memories, that legacy you take with you. But if you didn't have time for others and didn't have time for real meaningful pursuits and all you were pursuing was your own luxury and pleasure, what are you taking with you at the end? You end up a very empty person. The middle. Says Rabbi Yehuda Nasi to Antoninus, you want to understand a human being, it's not soul, it's not body. It's soul inside body. The two of them complement each other. The two of them have to work with each other. That's the way that we're intended to live. And think about what soul gives to body and what body gives to soul. We could live our lives thinking that the two are in constant battle with each other. But that'd be a wrong perspective. The two of them are partners. A body without a soul is blind, has no visibility. It doesn't know where it's going, it doesn't know what it should be doing, it doesn't know right from wrong and true from falsehood. So the soul brings to the body an element of clarity. But the soul without the body is lame. How much can it really achieve? How much of its potential can it experience and realize? So the body, with all of its heaviness and coarseness and distraction, presents a whole new opportunity for the soul. Hey, you have the chance to fail. You have the chance to make a mistake. Well, now you have the chance to do something right, and the chance to succeed, and the chance to truly grow beyond how you were before you came down to this world. Such a rich and important perspective. They're not enemies. They say a story. There was a bachur in a yeshiva who was seeking the spiritual path. And so what he started to do, like many used to do, was dedicate his days to a lot of fasting. He said it's the food and the taiva, the desire, the temptation for those foods, it brings me down. It doesn't allow me to pursue higher things, to have clean thoughts and focused intentions on living the spiritual life. And so for many, many days, he would fast morning till night. And he was a young student, and you can imagine this really weakened him until the point that he became very sick. And he was lying in bed, and the doctor tells his family and his friends, this is his deathbed. He's not going to recover from this one. He's lost so much weight and so many nutrients, and his vital organs are failing from this lifestyle that he lived. It's just a matter of time now. And this student turned to those who were around him and said, he started to cry, and he said, I thought this is the way to live. But now I realize I'm a young student and I haven't got many more days to live. My life is going to be very short. What I would give to be able to live another day and to put on tefillin another time, give tzedakah another time, be able to be available to someone else, build a family, help somebody. I would eat all the food in the world just to be able to live another day and do another mitzvah. Don't dismiss the body and its urges and cravings as something to be eradicated and eliminated. Absolutely not. The Talmud tells us, if not for the body and its desires, there'd be no desire to get married and to live with a spouse and to build a family. Without the body and its desires, there'd be no element of competitiveness to be able to succeed in business. And when you succeed in business and if you earn a good parnassah, you can give charity. If there be no element and desires of the body, then there'd be no possibility to pursue success in all kinds of ways that allow you and equip you. Not the successes that make you into arrogant and selfish. No, that's a body without a soul. That's a blind one. But a body that challenges the soul and brings what it brings to the table, to be able to live in this world and harness its resources and its energies to do all we can in the short life that we have here. So friends, as we enter the new year, think about body and soul are partners. We always have two voices inside of us. We have two voices, two yetzers, two inclinations, two souls. We have this soul that's always telling us what's right and what's wrong and to do the right thing, our altruistic side. We have the voice within us that tells us, just do it because it's fun, it's enjoyable, and make you feel good. You haven't got much time to live in this world. Live it up. They're a battle. Learn how they can coexist. Allow them to communicate with each other. Allow them to recognize that they each have what to complement to each other to bring your life to its greatest fulfillment. This is your life. You are body and you are soul. Neither can blame the other. Take ownership over your life. Recognize that you're a human being. Recognize that you have all kinds of distractions and hardships. Recognize you have to make big decisions. Coming to Rosh Hashanah, make those decisions. Make the right decisions. And recognize that the harder it is to make the right decisions, that means the more you're going to be able to grow from all this. That's the big key. COVID has given us so much difficulty and challenge. Our lives have been changed. But at the same time, in the last 6 months, I hope you've had the time to think to yourself, about yourself. Reevaluate who you are. Really evaluate your family unit in isolation. Reevaluate your work ethic. Reevaluate your social life. Reevaluate your priorities and how you spend your time. I think we've had amazing opportunity to learn, to grow, despite the hardship in this time. So I want to wish you all Shana Tova U'Metuka. May your new year be very healthy, be very happy, very hopeful, very encouraged, very blessed, very fortunate. Go out there, be the body and soul that you are. Allow them to guide you in a way to live meaningfully, purposefully, safely, and securely. I'll see you next week, next year, same week, same day, same time. God bless you. Shana Tova.